Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And at the very top of the show, I think Joy has a question for me. So let's open it with this question. Who knows what it could be?
I have a feeling Tim knows. It may have been a question that a lot of people that listen to the show have already weighed in on. It is the question of the dragon and or T-Rex conversation. So I posed a question, as one does, on the Facebooks and the social medias, because I feel in my mind that a dragon is just a T-Rex that breathes fire and has wings. And there was a lot of commotion and back and forth. My favorite answer might have been Stacy's when she said, I think it's just, I feel like dragons can identify as whatever they want. We should just accept it. Although that was an amazing answer. But Tim, what is your you get the final say on this.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said publicly, and I think this is the final answer. And I've just pulled it up to make sure the wording is correct.
Of course.
And I said, a dragon is a lizard with incredibly bad breath who failed to get a private pilot's license. So at great expense, got cosmetic surgery to add wings. Never judge the dragon. They're at peace with their decision.
And that is the final word, everybody. I just wanted Tim to, tell everyone what the final decision was. We were very final about that, unlike the hot dog. What was it? Is a hot dog sandwich debate. We'll never get an answer on that.
Well, I had 2 hot dogs tonight, and they were a meat substitute product in bread with ketchup.
I still say no. And I don't believe a taco is a sandwich either. And I had a taco for dinner tonight from El Bronco, and it did not feel like a sandwich to me. But anyway, all right. I think Tim has some music news. Okay, so we did an episode a few episodes back called Kiss and Makeup, where we spoke about Kiss and we spoke about artists who wear makeup. Now, as you may or may not know, Kiss are currently on their end of the line tour, end of the world tour, end of the road tour. There you go. I've just read it off their press release. And they hadn't yet announced the final dates, but they have today announced the final dates. So they will be playing their last ever shows as Kiss ever at Madison Square Garden in New York on December the 1st and December the 2nd this year. They say this is it for Kiss. It's completely over. Now, Kiss have broken up a number of times in the past and reformed a number of times in the past, as of other bands like The Who and Deep Purple and lots of other bands. So many things.
And I remember Motley Crue was saying this was the last ever tour, and they had some kind of legal document to claim it would be. And now they're touring with John 5 on guitar.
Like we said, money is a powerful thing. But I will say, in Kiss's kind of thing, they have marketed and they make money off of all that like weird stuff me and Tim have talked about. Kiss caskets, Kiss dolls, Kiss cars, whatever. So, I mean, they have other means of making money. So maybe.
That's true. And I bet the members of Kiss have been down to East London where ABBA Voyage is and had a look at that because,
yeah,
because they could capture their stage show in a similar manner and put it in Vegas or put it in New York or wherever you want to put it. And it can play infinitely and they don't have to turn up and they're going to make money out of that. So I wonder.
I've been thinking, I thought about that too when we did the ABBA episode. I mean, you were kind of like watching and seeing and listening to the album. How many other artists were going to be like, how can I do this?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I think it's different. If the artist is no longer around and you're using a hologram or a digital recreation, that's weird. But if all the members of Kiss consent to this and they're all alive to do it and be motion captured and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you get to see the band in their prime. You have a band of live musicians like you do with the ABBA Arena who are all absolutely first class. And the venue sounds great. It's, it's a smaller venue, so you're always going to have a good view of the stage. I don't know. Maybe I can see Kiss doing this.
Well, and see, you know what I think is an interesting predecessor to this? We've talked about the hologram stuff where they did the Tupac and the Prince and all that. And me and you both agreed we're not fans of it. But do you remember on the Michael Jackson This Is Us tour where he
in his tour, he was kind of doing similar things to like the hologram situation. Like, did you watch the movie, right, Tim? You saw it.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
remember how like in the one scene where it's like the people and they're like the military people and they're like walking and then they made like holograms to make it look like thousands upon thousands kind of walking out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? That was kind of like in my mind, or like the scene with the like when they're talking about the smooth criminal and like he's there, they're like the holograms around him, but he's there physically. I almost wonder if that was a predecessor to this.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, it was the ABBA thing was Industrial Light and Magic, which is George Lucas's company, using motion capture suits like that were pioneered in Avatar and things like that. But, you know, the technology has moved on so much. Yeah. And they were able to de-age them and make them look younger. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe that kind of stuff was being thought of back then, and now the technology allows you to do it.
It's very interesting. When you were describing that, I always remember when I watched that in theater, I was like, that's so cool. That seemed, now it doesn't even seem like you're saying the technology has gotten so far. It doesn't even feel that cool. But in the moment, stuff like that, I feel like was leading up to this.
Exactly. And actually, to take a fork from music news, though I will come back to music news, in the subject of technology. So yesterday, I listened to the Beatles album Revolver, which is hardly new news because it's from 1966. However,
it's pretty new for us, Tim. We talk about stuff from 1700s.
Well, as you may or may know, Joy, I'm doing a music challenge with our listener, Megan, to listen to 1,001 albums. This is a book called 1,001 Albums You Must Listen to Before You Die. And we're both going through it on the same day listening, and then we post our results to Twitter.
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah. So I listened to Revolver, and it's as if like some kind of coincidence. I was listening to NPR like a day before this, and Giles Martin was on. And for those of you who don't know, Giles Martin is the son of producer George Martin. George Martin produced all the Beatles music. Now, he has been remixing Beatles music. And he did Sgt. Pepper, he did Let It Be, he did the White Album, and I think he also did Abbey Road. So Revolver was the next one down to do. But the interesting thing about Revolver is it's a more early work from the Beatles. And when they recorded it, they only had 4 tracks in the studio. So what they would have done is they would have recorded 4 things, like Ringo's drums, the bass, 1 vocal, and a guitar. And then you record those 4 tracks onto 1 track. And then all you have is 1 track with all that stuff on it. And then you add stuff, and then you bounce it down, and you bounce it down. And in the end, you end up with a master, which is only 4 tracks, but all of those tracks have like multiple instruments on it. So if you're trying to do a remix of the album using contemporary studio tools, compression, EQ, reverb, et cetera, you can't do it because all those tracks are all comped together.
Oh, that makes sense because you don't have the way to separate it out.
Exactly. Until now. So there's a company that works with the FBI and the CIA that works with surveillance. So like if like the FBI are bugging someone and it's a super noisy room, they want to isolate just what's being said. And they've been able to do this to some extent for years. Yeah. But the quality has never been good. But because of artificial intelligence, they've been able to super refine this to the point now you can send the tracks off to these people. And they can remove every instrument, every drum, every violin
to get to the part that you want,
and make them completely separate. So Giles Martin gets all the tracks back, and he's got the separate bass drum and the separate rack tom and the separate third violin and all this kind of stuff. So
that's so weird to think about because I'm thinking about the way you hear when you hear something all at once, and to being able to piecemeal that out is such a weird concept to me.
Yeah, so like a contemporary modern recording is done like that, but like for this old music to have, like you say, having it all separated out is so weird. So because he now has everything separate, he can mix it like a contemporary song and mix it like a modern song using all the studio tools. So I listened to it on headphones yesterday as part of the challenge. Yeah. And it's like the first time I've ever heard Revolver. It is amazing.
So I'm gonna have to do that after this because now I'm very curious. But that just like I don't know why, but my brain doesn't like the concept of that. But anyway,
but like you listen, like Eleanor Rigby, it has all those classical instruments on it, and in the normal mix, it just sits in the middle of the stereo spectrum, all that classical stuff all together. And I think like Paul's on one side and something else is on other vocals on the other side or something. Anyhow, now you hear it. The whole classical orchestra is across the stereo spectrum. So you got one lot of violins on one side, the cellos, violas on the other side, and it's just mind blowing. Which
you hear in modern day music, but I mean, I've heard Eleanor Rigby, probably a bajillion times since I was born. Like, to be able to think that's so cool. All right, yeah. I like that one, Tim. That's cool.
Yeah, and the best thing is when I posted up on the Twitter, as post up every day to I'm doing the challenge, and I tagged Giles Martin saying, "Hey, listen to this mix; it's absolutely amazing." He liked it this morning.
Look at you, Tim! Blam blam blam.
But there you go. Okay, so just one last piece of music news, and this is actually not something I was aware of. But did you know that Amy Grant is coming out with some new music?
No, I had no idea. It's been a long time since she's produced anything.
Yeah, well, the reason being is that she suffered a traumatic brain injury about a year ago. And it was people were wondering whether she would have to retire because apparently it was super bad. It was like a bicycling incident or something. And she had a super bad concussion. And, it was a real rough time for her. But anyhow, she's pulled through. Apparently she's back in good shape and she's about to release some new music.
See, and she is such an interesting character to me because I did not know. I mean, we know this now, but until I watched the documentary, I really didn't know she started out in such the gospel sphere of music because she sounds so poppy. And so it's cool.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I only really knew her from that Baby Baby song that I really enjoyed. But
that one.
Yeah, and I never knew of the her religious background at all.
Well, and I never knew, I would have never taken that song to be a religious song, but I guess at some point that's what she said. It kind of expanded from her original context. But yeah, I watched a whole documentary that talked a lot about, in the 60s and 70s, there was a big kind of push for, think like Cat Stevens kind of music, that Jesus freak kind of thing, that sound was really big, but they said that never really transcended into mainstream to, and then Amy Grant came along and that song came out and she had two other songs that were mildly popular and she kind of made a way for people who were into religious music to be popular. So
yeah, and I think as we've spoken before, there was somewhat of a backlash from sort of her fans only of her religious music when she went mainstream. But I'm glad she's back. I'm glad she's made a recovery. It'll be interesting to hear what she comes out with.
So, yeah, for sure. It should be interesting. Yeah, that was, and I wish I'm going to have to go on a rabbit hole and remember what that documentary was. I'll send it to you, Tim, and maybe we'll post it because it's really interesting for any of our listeners to listen to.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So that's the end of music news. This week is Joy's turn to pick the topic. And as ever, I don't know what the topic's going to be. So, Joy, over to you.
Well, the episode has already named itself because I named it while I was doing research. So Tim could write this down. It's a Divasode. So we're going to talk about divas.
That is a great name, the Divasode.
I kept talking to myself. I'm like, okay, diva episode, diva. And somehow at some point my brain went Divasode. And I was like, I'm keeping it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and kind of define what a diva is by the Oxford Dictionary and what me and Tim think divas are. And then I've just picked some famous divas we all know, male, females, whatever, it doesn't matter. And some little stories about the writers, things they do backstage. And then I picked a song by each artist for us to discuss.
Okay.
All right. So a diva, which I disagree with this. Apparently it says a woman regarded as temperamental or haughty. Haughty, I can't say that word. The one with the G. Tim could probably say it right. Hughty. When someone's I can't say it very well. The word diva originally was defined as a celebrity female opera singer or a famous female singer of popular music. And then it's kind of changed culturally. Now it's more to input somebody who demands you take all the brown M&Ms out or something.
Exactly.
Which that is the most famous writer thing. We're not going to get into it because I think we've talked about it 1,000 times. But I'm going to start this off with a diva. I'm going to name the song I picked from them, and then I'll tell you the story. This one is one that's near and dear to Tim's heart. It is Miss Katy Perry.
Yeah. As I said, I like Katy Perry. I like the pop music she makes. And lately, her sort of more dance-orientated music isn't really to my taste. But her stuff early on in her career, when she just came off the back of the Warped Tour, and even up to Prism, I really enjoyed that kind of slant in pop music. But she's got into a lot more hip-hop and dance, and that's not really my thing.
And I agree with Tim on that. She's kind of lost me, but at one point I was a big Katy Perry fan. So the song I picked is the one song that I feel like I like the most from Katy Perry. Like if I have to pick one song, I picked Waking Up in Vegas.
Yeah, Waking Up in Vegas is probably my favorite Katy Perry track. It's from the album One of the Boys. And I've seen the video to that 50 times, and it has Penn and Teller in the video.
I mean, it's amazing, and it's fun, it's poppy, it's happy. She has a great voice, and she's very charismatic as a performer. So I think that makes all the difference in the video. She's kind of like, I feel like she could have been an actress or something if she wanted to. But anyway, so Miss Katy Hudson Perry, her original name. But anyway, she apparently, this was her little diva thing, and this is part of her rider. She only allows egg-shaped chairs. So apparently Katy Perry really has a thing for eggs, and she only wants egg-shaped chairs in her backstage area, and they must be creamed colored. And at least one of them should have a footstool.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know if I can fully consider Katy Perry a diva in the traditional sense. But do you know what that says to me? That says to me someone who said, "Do you know what I'm going to do for fun? Let's just say I only will put up with egg-shaped chairs." Exactly.
So then apparently she also demands that her refrigerators have glass doors, which the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, glass doors on a refrigerator just sounds smart. You know what's in there before you even open it, Tim. Like we're making a grocery list.
It reminds me of refrigerators you get in hotel minibars.
Which I just heard a story about somebody with that. So apparently there's a hack going around now that you bring your if you get a can of Coke or something or soda or whatever from the mini bar, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg for that one little can. So what they were saying to do is to swap it with another, a different can or something. There's a hack about that going on. But what the problem was is a lot of people fell for the hack, and a lot of especially the high-end hotels, they have sensors. So as soon as you take the can off, it sends a sensor and you get charged anyway.
Yeah, I've come across that. So like you say, it has like a little trip switch in the bottom, and there's no way to lift it out and put another one in because it will immediately charge it to your bill. And as we all know with mini bars, so let's say a can of Coke is $1. In the minibar, it will be $12. And the reason being that it's that expensive because you come back to your hotel room at 1 a.m. or whatever, and the shops are all closed. The shop in the hotel is closed, and you really want that can of Coke, and you really want that tube of Pringles. And where else are you going to get it? In your hotel room. It's sitting there, tempting you, taunting you, in fact. And you're thinking, oh, well, yeah, I don't stay in a hotel very often. Well, I just have that can of Coke and those Pringles. I mean, it's $24. I mean, I don't do this every day. So you pull them out and then you end up paying $25 for $2 worth of stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a universal thing. I've heard of it across the world pretty much.
Yeah, I've come across it in UK hotels. I've come across it in US hotels, European hotels, Australian hotels, everywhere.
The one thing I will say that I am very happy for in U.S. hotels versus the UK and the 4 hotels I stayed in Europe, the times I've been there, it's the AC, because I'm always there during the summer and you have to put the card in or whatever, Tim, and then you have to take the card out. I hate that. Can't stand it. Now, there is some tricks about using a different card, not using your room key or whatever.
I've done that. So you have a Blockbuster video card or a I don't know, a CVS card or whatever, and you put the do not disturb thing on the door so they don't come in, and then you jam a Blockbuster video card in it, and then you go out and then you come back and your room's freezing cold. It's perfect.
Especially when I was in Spain because it was so hot. And I remember I came back and I'm like, oh, we took the room key with us because we came in and it's 103. And I get it. It's good for, the environment, electricity. But when you've been walking all over Madrid because you're, only there for a week and you come back and your room's 102, it's not always the funnest experience.
That's true. And I will say that a lot of UK hotels don't even have air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the one in France didn't. Every other one that I stayed in did. And I was so happy because I was worried when we went to Greece 3 years ago that there was not going to be one because it's hot. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, there was. Anyway, so that's my qualms about UK. It doesn't seem to be an American thing, though. I've never experienced that in America. But Tim says we tend to be more AC, I don't know, driven in America.
Yeah, UK is not a country that has air conditioning typically. Like a lot of shops don't have it. Homes do not have it. Hotels rarely have it. And as I said, when I lived in a tiny little flat, I had an air conditioner. And I'd tell people at work that I had an air conditioner, and I might as well have had a spaceship for the responses. That
was it one of those old school ones you said, like with the big tube?
Yeah, because I used the exhaust vent. I used to vent it out through the letterbox.
Sorry, I cut you off, but I was imagining the spaceship, and that even looked more like a spaceship. What were you saying? They thought it was like super expensive, I'm guessing, or something.
Yeah, people would say to you, "Oh, that's so sad you afford that. That's so expensive. Where did you get it from?" And it's like it was £119 when I got it in Comet.
You're like, it's really not that foreign. All right. So back to Katy Perry. So she also wants pink and white flowers, plus some beauty products of her choice. And then one thing, though, that made me laugh is apparently she does put in big, bold letters, absolutely no carnations.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know what the carnation, like flowers have different meanings, like one's for like a funeral, one's for this. I don't know if the carnation has any meaning. I don't know.
It might just aggravate her sinuses for when she sings. I don't know.
Oh, that's more logical than what I was thinking. Once again, Tim comes in with the smart answer. I'm sitting here going, what do carnations mean? Oh, Lord. All right. So anyway. On to another one. And this one is one of the most famous divas of all time. We spoke about her just recently on one of our episodes. It is Madonna.
Yeah,
Madonna.
Queen Diva the first, probably, of the modern era.
Bum, bum, bum. All right. So she, the queen of pop. What the song I chose, there's a story that I chose this song for. I'm curious to see if Tim knows what I'm talking about or if he just stares at me awkwardly and is like, I have no idea. So do you know the song Who's That Girl?
Oh, absolutely. Because, in fact, I gave you a vinyl record of the soundtrack album, Who's That Girl?
Okay, well, there you go, everyone. I probably have it sitting in the vinyl over there. So that song, though, where it goes, Who's That Girl? So I have a very distinct memory associated with that song. And it is a very random but very specific thing. So I used to go in Yahoo chat rooms. Yahoo was my favorite chat room. And before like emojis and the little GIFs and stuff were out, they had these little pictures that you could post in Yahoo chat rooms. And they were like the predecessor. And for some reason, there was a Madonna pack. And it was Madonna's head. And she'd be singing different songs. And my favorite one was always the Madonna one where her little head would pop up and she'd go, Who's that girl? And I used it all the time. Does that ring a bell, Tim? Do you have any clue what I'm talking about?
Well, I didn't do Yahoo Chat. I did ICQ. I did MSN Messenger. And I think I actually had my own chat room, which was like a Java chat room script that you could join.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get involved much with the chat room. Certainly Yahoo Chat was not a thing.
So I'm going to have to go hunt that down because they existed. And they also had these little happy tree friends that were like animals. It doesn't matter. But I swear they were the predecessor to what we now see with like the GIFs and stuff. Or GIF, depending on who you are. I don't actually have a preference. Do you say GIF or GIF, Tim?
I say GIF.
I think it just depends on whatever comes out of my mouth, honestly.
I remember there was a podcast I used to listen to who'd been around for a while, and they managed to get an interview with Bill Gates. And they spoke for Bill Gates for about an hour and a half about all kinds of tech stuff. And then on the next episode, they said, do you know what we didn't ask him? If it was GIF or GIF. We're like, no!
Oh, the world will never know. Oh, like Jiffy Pop, or like the popcorn, or like Jiffy peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of that, but anyway, all right, doesn't matter. So here was what Miss Madonna demands, which there was a lot of stuff. I just picked a few key pieces. We'd be here all week. We could do a whole episode on Madonna's diva world. But anyway, so she bans air conditioning from her venues. Did you know that?
Yeah, and again, that's probably for vocal reasons.
That's what she says, yeah.
Yeah, it probably because it dries out her throat.
But apparently she is so specific about it, and like she actually had it said in 2006 during a very hot performance in London, they had to stop because people kept fainting in the audience.
Oh, goodness me.
Because it got so hot in there. And so she also demands that they request every toilet seat that she uses be replaced before she uses it. She needs a brand new toilet seat at everyone.
That's a little full on.
It really is. On top of that, she requires a dozen white roses back to the flowers and candles be placed around her dressing room. Apparently, they help protect the singer from negative glances and mean-spiritedness. Her words, not mine. What's a negative glance? Like people looking at her?
I mean, maybe she arranges the roses in such a way that that's her complete field of vision. I don't know.
So nobody can see her. You just walk in and Madonna's just got 5 things of roses around her head.
Well, she went for a while. She was wearing an eye patch. So yeah. She's got the eye patch on, and then she's got roses around the other side. I mean, she can't see anything.
So what is your thoughts on her fake British accent?
It's terrible. I mean, she was married to Guy Ritchie for 5 minutes, and then she lived in London for 5 minutes, and then she assumed this British accent affair, which was weird.
And it's not even like... And it's just like a hint of British. Do you know what I mean, Tim? Like, it's not like, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know that I would have thought it was a British accent until you watch her for a little while, and then you kind of see the way she's like putting the words to the phrases. But like people started talking about it, I was like, oh, that's what she's doing.
Yeah, and the thing is, she makes the classic mistake that a lot of people do when they try and do a British accent, is they go all Mary Poppins, like, oh, blimey, Mary Poppins.
And it's like,
don't do that.
In America, there's a big thing with a lot of Cockney kind of sounding when people try to do a British accent. And to be fair, Tim, I will say this. I love singing. I've taken vocal lessons. We've talked about this. That is my thing. I have a very strong natural speaking voice. Tim knows that when he talks to me, I project very well, but almost too well, to be fair. But Tim equalizes it so you guys don't go deaf. But with that being said, I can't do accents. They're bad, Tim. And I know that the internet is going to come for me. Don't come for me, internet, on this. But whenever like someone's like Australian, and then sometimes people think they're from the UK, or sometimes somebody from the UK is from Australia, they really can sound similar to Americans. I'm sorry, it's true.
Yeah, because in my fabled spreadsheet that I kept for a year about people saying they like my accent, I think I had 7 or 8 interactions throughout the year of people asking me whether I was Australian.
I think it's because, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Australians just speak a closer English. They do use different words than you guys do, but there's just something about the vowel sounds that do sound similar.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably more similar than it is an American accent, I would imagine.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And the other thing I feel like that people forget about America is how large America is. And I'm not talking about like we're the best country in the world. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, like physically large, like geographically large. So you have so many. The size of England is the size of one of our states. And so geographically, there's so many different voices and sounds you get from America because we're so big.
Yeah. And, before I lived here, I didn't really tweak that. I sort of knew that Dolly Parton and the like Southern sounded a bit different, but now I live here and you meet different people all the time, and it's like I can now tell somebody's from like Jersey or upstate New York, or somebody's way from the South, or someone's from out west. It's easier to hear those differences.
And I've also heard, and Tim, you can kind of talk on this. Our friend Sarah made a comment about this once when we were discussing how far I was. Well, we have some friends that we were talking to. They were on a live Zoom, and I signed in and it was the weekend me and Charlie went to New York City. I was walking around Central Park. Tim remembers this. Mm-hmm. And they asked, how far are you from New York? And Tim's like, me and him were like 8 to 10 hours or whatever we said. And Sarah was like, I just realized I have zero concept of how big America is. And I've heard that a few times that like you can put England and Texas like 4 times over.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 3,000 miles from one end to the other. I mean, it would take you all day to fly from one end to the other. If you drive, it's like a 36-hour drive door to door. Mm-hmm.
So I've done the drive from Virginia to Utah 4 different times, and it takes, with multiple people driving, you're on the road for a good 3 days straight.
Yeah.
And Utah's almost all the way to the other, and you've still got 2 more states you'd have to go through to get to California.
Yeah.
So anyway, not that this isn't, I don't know why we got so stuck up on geography, but anyway. All right. This one is a very famous diva. She has had very many diva eras. She has done many diva-ish things, and she probably is one of the most quintessential divas of the world. It is Mariah Carey.
Yeah, Mariah Carey. I remember reading an article about Mariah Carey, and she was at some venue or some TV show or something, and her assistant told the producer, Mariah does not do stairs.
I wish that I just had somebody who could tell people I don't do stairs. So there's like this famous, I'll get into what song and stuff, but this relates to what Tim's saying. So she swears she never wears flat shoes. She says her feet are just so used to always wearing heels. So there was like this, I don't know, Instagram, social media, MySpace, whatever the kids are doing, post that she did. And she was working out, quote unquote. It was very staged looking working out, but she's on like a stair stepper. Mm-hmm. And she was wearing these like, they looked like tennis shoes, sneakers, whatever you want to call them, workout shoes, but they had heels. And she said it's because her feet cannot wear flat shoes anymore.
I mean, when she gets out of bed and goes to the shower, does she slip on like slippers with heels? I mean, how does that work?
I don't know, but anyway, I just remember when you said that she was on the stair stepper and she was literally stepping in heels. And I'm like, I'm not judging your choices, but that seems dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, heels can look attractive because they make your legs stretch your legs out, which is why people wear heels. And people like to wear them too, but they're not an everyday wear. They're a special occasion wear. I mean, you're telling me when Mariah, I don't know, is pottering around her house, she's wearing heels. I mean,
chasing after her 2 toddlers. I don't know.
Yeah, wearing heels in the house. I no.
Well, and I have a theory that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I've never worn heels out. I mean, I've worn heels for 5 minutes around the house because Hannah's had a pair, and I was curious to see what it felt like. And when I was a kid, like my mother would have heels, and you put them on just to see what it's like to walk like that. And I mean, I'm sure you get used to it, but it did feel very unnatural.
You say you get used to it. Every time I wore them out, my feet just end up hurting, and I'm over it an hour in. But with that being said, I was going to say I have a theory that I feel like women are supposed to wear heels because it makes us easier for someone to chase bad guys to chase us. That's my theory. But the weird thing about it, though, is heels like in medieval times or like, I don't know, the times when everybody was wearing the powdered wigs, whatever time frame that was, men wore the heels. Men were wearing heels. It was actually a man shoe. So would that have been, what time frame would that have been? Like,
well, like King Henry VIII time, that kind.
Yeah, that time. Wow, Tim, we're so smart when it comes to history. That time.
What do you think? Like back in Beatles' time, back in the 60s, like it was very fashionable. There wouldn't be like a high heel, but it'd be like what they call a Cuban heel. Which is like a kind of a wedge shoe that traditionally a lady would wear, but men would wear those kind of shoes.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on what time frame you're in. So I have a dumb question. Shocking. I've never done that before. Tim's face went, oh God, what is she asking me now? So I'm going to get so much hate for this. So I've seen in Parliament and different things in the UK and like judges and stuff still wear powdered wigs. Is that really a thing?
Yeah, it is.
And like
it's
robes?
It's part of the uniform. Like in the House of Lords, and also, like you say, in certain courts, that you would wear a wig and a robe.
Seems very fanfare.
Yeah, seems very unnecessary. I think is what you're looking for.
Yeah, it looks a little over the top, but anyway, okay. So the song I chose was a song that I know Tim knows very well because we talked about it. It's Fantasy, which samples Tom Tom Club.
Yes, absolutely. That is actually a really good song. I mean, the original Tom Tom Club song is really good as well, but the Mariah's version is good too.
Oh, I love early 90s Mariah. Like I adore her music, and her voice was one of the best voices ever. Sadly, I feel like she can't sing anymore because of the whole thing we've talked about before. But her voice, when she first came out in the early 90s, if you ever hear that the tone and the sound that came out of her, fantastic. Like, bar none, amazing, amazing voice. But with that being said, that does not give you the excuse to make people wait for 3 hours because you're late or not take stairs. Anyway, it's because you were born with that. So apparently, as I said, she's another one that there was lists and lists and lists. I've heard one big one, and I don't know if you've heard this, but I've heard it from multiple sources that she leaves people waiting for hours. Like,
that's just unpleasant and not nice behavior.
Yeah, so supposedly she'll like invite you. So given one of the people who said this, I don't trust because he has his own, it's James Corden. But I watched James Corden say it, but I've heard 2 or 3 other people say like she'll invite you over and have like somebody let you in and you just sit on her couch for 2 hours till she's ready.
Yeah, I would wait on her couch for about 30 minutes and say, I'm off, love. I'll see you later.
I'd be like, figure it out without me. We're not doing this.
Exactly.
So that's just what I've heard. She also, going with what Tim was saying about the stairs, this is in my little thing. You were kind of on the money. So Mariah Carey requests a staircase assistant whose primary responsibility was to test stairs to make sure they're safe to walk down. She pays someone to test all the stairs to make sure they're safe.
That sounds like a beef eater. Like royalty used to have. They had someone to test the meat.
Oh, you mean like a food tester? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that's like. That's like a modern day beef eater.
Maybe she had a bad accident on a set of stairs once.
I mean, I've fallen downstairs. Everybody has like slipped on stairs, but I don't go around with a stair tester. But then again, most of the time I'm wearing sensible shoes, so I'm not wearing ridiculous heels. I don't know.
From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. I don't know. But like, how do you get that job? Because like, if she pays me $90,000 a year and all I got to do is walk up and down steps and hope I don't fall. No, she wouldn't pick me, Tim, because I would fall regardless. I couldn't get the job. I'd fall on the first day, but that seems like a really good gig if you're being paid well.
Yeah, it's an odd gig, but it would be a good one. You just follow her around the world and you just have to test the stairs out.
Could you imagine? Because where I interview all day, you're pulling up some candidates' resumes and you're reading through, and one of their jobs is Mariah Carey's staircase assistant. I'd probably be like, they're lying and throw it out. Like, if that's your only job. So that's just one of the many things she does. But she also demands that she has custom toilet paper in her dressing room. I couldn't find out what they mean by custom. Like, what is she customizing? Is it the type of paper? Is it the size of paper? I couldn't get specification.
maybe it's a particular brand.
But see, custom to me makes it sound like it's made just for her. Does Charmin make a specific Mariah Carey blend?
I don't know, but I have a toilet paper question for you.
What's that?
So, like, when I was at school, when I was at primary school in particular, famously, school toilet paper looked like grease paper that you use in cooking. Was that a US thing as well? And
the paper towels. Yeah, it was a thing. The paper towels were those brown things that like the big, like, and they're just like, they never suck. Yeah, it's the same thing here. Okay.
No, I didn't know if that was a uniquely UK thing.
At least for the schools I went to. And when I talk to people that they've agreed. And it's always like, I don't know if it's just like, I imagine it's because of what the school gets in bulk and is cheap. But
Yeah, I mean, that's what it boils down to.
all right. She also requires a $200 bottle of a Cabernet, 2 dozen white roses. Here we go with the roses again. A vanilla aromatherapy candle. Well, just one. Just one, Tim.
Okay.
I don't know why she needs 2 dozen roses and one candle, but she does. I don't know. As for furnishings, there should be no busy patterns. Black, gray, cream, dark pink are all fine. And lighting must be adjusted to Mimi's liking. And the temperature should be around 75 degrees. The lamp should be harsh lighting, but can be turned off. So she wants the regular lighting to be like some type of dim, like kind of like, massage room. But she wants one lamp that's harsh lighting that she can turn on and off.
Okay.
Maybe to check her makeup in different lighting situations.
It seems incredibly specific.
It really does. The singer also reportedly has assistants follow her around to make sure she's filmed from the right side, because that's her best side. I've heard that. I agree. I understand what she's saying. Like if you're constantly being on film and stuff. But could you imagine, like, you're like her assistant, you're like, no, go to the other side, like all evening. That's all you're doing. Like, well, first I had to test her stairs, and now I got to move the cameraman the entire time.
I just think it would be annoying. I mean, if you were the person, I don't know, maybe if you're the kind of person who comes up with these kind of rules and conditions, you enjoy it. But for me, having someone like follow me around and tell people to do other things in my presence, I just wouldn't like that.
It would be too much. It would just be too much. She also has a special attendant in her dressing room that stays in her dressing room the entire time she's at this venue. If she's like her Vegas show, she was there for like 6 months or whatever. And this person's job is to just hand her towels when she needs them. I can't make this stuff up. And the bad part is you think that these things are fake. You're like, this is stupid. I saw this from so many sources. And then apparently this only happened once, but I wanted to throw it out there, demanded to be surrounded by 20 white kittens and 100 dogs at a public event. Why would you want cats and birds? I thought they don't mix.
Sounds like something from a photo shoot or something.
Maybe it just said at a public event. I couldn't confirm, but all I could think about is you don't want cats with birds. That's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. No idea.
I don't know, Tim, but I still want to know about the custom toilet paper. But I don't feel like I could ever say, like, if I said something like that, I would feel like the person that I was talking to, like if I put it in my rider, or if I told someone, I only want this, I feel like they would laugh me off the planet. Like I would never feel comfortable requesting anything close to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in gigs where I've had what they call like a theatrical rider, where you can specify what you want backstage. And what did I request? I seem to remember it was water, potato chips, and it was like a towels or something. It was reasonable stuff that you would want backstage to drink, and then you come off and you're sweaty. But like I wasn't requesting I needed perfumed roses, or I don't know.
One candle, Tim, just one.
One candle and mood lighting and a. Yeah.
But then a lamp that's also harsh lighting. My only theory could be is she's just trying to see what her makeup's going to look in different lighting. That's all I can come down to. But anyway. All right. So our next diva is another one that ranks up there. But this one specifically, I think she's a diva in the sense that she's an amazing singer. But I don't really know of her as like a diva and the requesting weird stuff. But it's Celine Dion.
Yeah. So I would say certainly from a performance perspective, from a voice perspective, she is up there as being a diva. But I'm sure she has airs and graces and assistants and stuff, but she's not in the same category, to say, as Mariah Carey from that perspective, I don't think.
At least people aren't out there spreading the word. She's either keeping it more quiet or maybe her demands just aren't as crazy, but she does have some. So basically, the song I chose, by the way, and I have a story for this song, is, do you remember the song? It was a 90s song by Celine, and it wasn't, she wore like a white outfit in the video. I distinctly remember that. That's Just the Way It Is.
Yeah, I know that one.
I love that song, and it's like it disappeared off the planet. Like, I never hear it in any, it's like, you know, people talk about Celine Dion all the time. And of course, it's the Titanic and My Heart Will Go On and all these big dramatic pieces. And this could be because I'm married to Charlie and he makes me listen to that stuff all the time. I don't know. But that song was so good. That's the way it is. And she looks so just kind of dressed down, very casual in the video. And I remember watching it maybe on like VH1 or something as a kid a lot. I love that song. And I feel like it just disappeared.
Yeah, Celine Dion was performing in Vegas the first few times that we were there. And I suggested to Hannah that we should go and see Celine Dion. And I learned very early on, she does not like Celine Dion. So we didn't see her. So there we are. That's a fun fact for you.
I mean, to be fair, I don't like absolutely adore, like seek out Celine Dion's music, but I do listen to it occasionally. And I think she's got a great voice. And I would go see her live because I feel like she put on a really cool concert. But yeah, that song is that's just a song that I kind of forget exists, and it doesn't fit the rest of her catalog. Not really.
Yeah, I think the problem with Celine Dion is that for lots of people who don't know of her music, all they know is the Titanic song.
Mm-hmm. But like, I even like her stuff that she did with, what is his name? That hell guy. Why can't I think of his name? Meatloaf. She did a few songs with Meatloaf. She did she might have even did an album with him, and that's kind of not mainstream, and it's really cool if you've never heard it. But anyway, all right. I don't know why I couldn't think of Meatloaf's name, but I could think of Bat Out of Hell. So
my favorite Meatloaf story, he was on a radio interview. And, there's two stories. One, Paul from our previous episode that we did phoned in to one radio interview and asked him why he'd cut his hair off and told him it wasn't very rock and roll. And then Meatloaf said, I tell you this, Paul from Staines, rock and roll is an attitude. It's nothing to do with the length of your hair. Now, that's a great one Meatloaf story.
That's an amazing quote.
Yeah, and I think he said he had a tape of that, and I've never heard it. So, Paul, if you're listening and you can find that recording, digitize it and share it, because he's told that story so many times. I'd really like to hear it for real.
Funny.
So that's one. My other favorite Meatloaf story is he was doing another interview somewhere else. And they said, Meatloaf, it's an interesting, because what was his name? Marvin something.
Yeah.
Real name.
We Googled it one day.
Yeah. And they said, Meatloaf, that's a very interesting stage name. And I know you probably go by that name everywhere now. He said, he said, even like some family and things call me Meatloaf. They said, well, what do your kids call you? And he said, Dad, obviously.
That's a good point. That's funny. Oh, Lord. All right. So what Celine requests is pretty much, we talked about the temperature thing, which Tim's identified as the singing, and I think it's the same. She keeps hers at 73 degrees precise, which I kind of get. 73 degrees is like a nice medium, I think. I would enjoy 73 degrees. So anyway, she also has to have parking for, I don't know why her crew is this big, but this is what they're saying. She has 20 tractor trailers, 10 buses, 3 stretch limos, and 2 staff minivans. Okay. And so they say you have to have a massive amount of parking anywhere she goes.
Well, I think she's doing the crew a solid, because a lot of venues you play, even big venues, especially ones in city centers, there's really nowhere to park, or very limited parking for tour buses and crew and stuff like that. So I think she is probably doing her crew a really good solid by putting on a technical rider. I need 22 parking spaces, because you turn up in a city, you turn up at a venue. Yeah, Celine's tour bus pulls right in, and there's plenty of room for that. But she's thinking for the guy who does the lights, or the people that do the staging or whatever like that. She wants to make sure that there's no hassle for them when they arrive.
I agree with that. And it would keep everything on schedule. They're not having to run your giant equipment all over, Kingdom Come to get it to your stage. And I thought that too. I just thought the 3 stretch limos was interesting. So nothing too crazy there. They also reportedly that she wants Bavarian figs, like the food, little figs or whatever, which I was trying to identify in my brain if I know what a fig tastes like, and I don't know if I do.
I've had figs because at Christmas you used to get like a little container of figs. Was that not a Christmas thing for you?
No, I think that's a UK thing. Are figs popular in the UK?
I don't know. It's a Christmas food.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, maybe I have I can't identify it. But French cherries, which I didn't know that the French had their own cherries. But anyway, but cherries are my least favorite food besides olives. So I would not know that. I hate cherries and I hate olives. Tim hates cucumbers, everybody.
Cucumbers are absolutely disgusting. It's the smell of the cucumber. It's this rancid smell. It's horrible.
That's the way I feel about olives.
Yeah. And the worst thing about cucumbers is they put them in sandwiches. And then if you don't specify that you want them taken out, you get it with the cucumber. And then so you open it up and then there's this aroma of rancid cucumber comes out. And then you pick this stuff out and then you have to wash your hands because it stinks so bad. But then like the cucumber juice soaks in the bread and contaminates.
Because there's 70% water.
Yeah. And it contaminates the sandwich. It's like, who thought it was a good idea to eat cucumbers?
See, I love cucumbers, so I'm not going to go on Tim's cucumber bashing spree, but I agree with him on one thing. That's why I hate whenever someone says, because I want to like olives. I eat a lot of vegetables. I'm a pescatarian. I love all that stuff. But for some reason, like when you get like a pizza or something, they always put olives on it, black olives specifically. He's right. You cannot just pick off an olive. It leaves the juice. And the little black rings all over your pizza, it still tastes like olives. No matter how many olives you take off of the pizza, it still tastes like it. Because the juice is all over that pizza now. Same thing with Tim's sandwiches and the cucumbers.
Yeah, I like black olives, but I know exactly where you're coming from with that, 100%.
All right. Well, that had nothing to do with any of what Celine Dion wants. And the last thing she wants is something Tim said he liked, but a little bit different. In your rider, Tim, you asked for chips. She wants crinkle-free chips. Wouldn't that just be like a kettle-cooked chip?
Yeah, so she just wants regular potato chips or crisps, as they call them in the UK. And I bet I tell you why she doesn't want crinkle cut. It's because crinkle cut, have you ever like cut the inside of your mouth on a potato chip? I bet they're more susceptible. She probably likes them and they're more susceptible to like cutting your mouth. And if you're a performer, the last thing you want is like little tears and cuts inside your mouth because it might turn into a mouth ulcer or something. You don't want that.
I also thought, at least in my experience, crinkle cuts can be very dry. It might dry out your throat a little bit. And if you're going to be singing Celine Dion level belting, you need to have as much of your throat as you can have.
Absolutely.
She also one time, and this is just a very specific thing, and I don't know for what reason, she wanted an onstage choir of 20 to 24 children, age 7 to 12 of all races. None of them should be wearing a robe-like cloth. So she wanted like a child choir, but she didn't want it to look like, the classic like robe kind of gospel choir.
Okay. Interesting.
So hers weren't too outrageous, but you can't have a Divasode without Celine Dion. She is a diva. But this is another one that I feel like is going to come as no shock to anyone. It is Barbra Streisand.
Yes. I would think from backstage demands, Barbra Streisand is probably up there.
So the song I chose is You Don't Bring Me Flowers, which I just found out was written by Neil Diamond. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's actually a duet with Neil Diamond, I believe.
I didn't know he wrote it, though. And so it was actually for a TV show called All That Glitters.
Okay.
News to me. All right, everybody. I learned two things today. Apparently, that's Neil Diamond and All That Glitters. So that's the song I chose because it's a song I love. I distinctly remember this one memory of Barbara Streisand before I get into her little thing that is so funny to me. So I've talked about, I grew up in a very pro music household. We listened to everything. That's why I like a little bit of everything. My parents were big into 60s, 70s, 80s, Motown, rock, country, everything. And so I kind of, credit me and my older sister and my twin sister's ability to know music more than the average person from my parents. But one artist I really don't know that well, besides like Funny Girl and her Broadway stuff, is Barbara Streisand. Mm-hmm. Oh, she is, because she's a huge famous name. I never heard any of her music growing up. I never really sought out her music. It just wasn't my thing. But we were watching one of those, like every once in a while on TV, there'd be like a telethon or something where you send money in and there's like artists singing. Yeah. So something like that was on my house when I was a kid, and Barbara Streisand was singing on it. And I was so shocked that my father knew every song that Barbara Streisand was singing, word for word. I had never heard one Barbara Streisand song ever come near that man's ears. But apparently at some point in his life, he was a big Barbara Streisand fan. I don't know. I just missed that. I just remember looking at him going, is he singing Barbara Streisand? And it's not shocking because my dad would be the kind of person who would know that kind of stuff. Like, he wouldn't judge music at that, oh, Barbara Streisand's too cliche. But it was just weird. It was just one of those experiences where I was like, it's kind of like the time Charlie knew every word to Creed. And I was like, where the heck did that come from? I've never heard you play a Creed song ever. And he was like, oh, when I was younger, I had all the albums. Oh, well. Anyway, so as we said, Barbara Streisand has made a very, I don't even know, it's almost like a pop culture reference for her to be a diva at this point. She once presented a hotel with a roster of ridiculous demands. This is just one example, which included the stipulations that no oysters be in her room at any time. Do you have oysters just in your hotel room normally? Isn't that something that normally isn't in your hotel room to begin? What hotel rooms are you staying at that oysters are a problem?
And oysters are nasty. I mean, they look horrible.
I don't know. I just don't understand. Unless you order oysters from room service, they're not there. They don't just keep oysters in your hotel room. So it's just such an odd request. What am I missing? Anyway, so every square inch of her hotel and bathroom be carpeted. And I'm sorry, bathroom carpet is disgusting. No one should have carpet in their bathroom.
No, that is a British thing, like carpets in your bathroom.
So I have known a few people in my past who had one particular place that may have been a friend's house that liked to throw a lot of parties when I was in my early 20s. And the bathroom had carpet. And I'm talking about, they used to throw the biggest house parties you can imagine, Tim. And I still cringe to even think about that. And that's the moment I said, never put a carpet in a bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, we have carpets upstairs in our house. We have carpets on the stairs. We don't have carpets downstairs. And to be honest, as soon as I can afford to do it, I can't wait to get rid of the carpets that we have.
I feel like the UK is more pro carpet than America.
Yo, it's carpet-tastic. It really is. I mean, people have wooden floors and tile floors and stuff, but as a generalization, people are having carpets in their houses.
Well, I am not pro carpet. I would much rather, and the reason, and I'm sure Tim will just agree with me, it's cleaner. You can keep a hardwood floor or vinyl or something like that so much cleaner, easier. That's all it is.
I mean, we hoover this house regularly, and we have in fact, you can see it behind. You can't see it on the podcast, but there's the hoover. There it is. Boom, there it is. And we hoover the house regularly. However, I mean, you go a week or something and you hoover the house. I mean, we have a cat. I mean, goodness me, the amount of fluff and dust and stuff that gets on those carpets. And I mean, that's only in a very short period of time. I mean...
Yep. Now, I will say the carpets in my house are very old and they need to be ripped out. We hate them, but we haven't done it. But yeah, you can go 2 or 3 days with my dog's hair and you will have like a pound of hair in the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, Jack doesn't shed as bad as a dog would, but even still, like you say, it doesn't take long. And even outside of having pets, just your shedding skin cells.
Dust is mostly human skin.
Yeah, and like when you hoover up, even if it doesn't have cat fur in it, it's just full of that dust, and that's human skin cells that's just hanging out there in carpets. I mean, yeah,
great. I'm gonna dust my house when we're done. Thanks for reminding me, Tim. All right, so back to Barbara Streisand. She also requests that the head of her bed be elevated to a specific number of degrees. If the bed couldn't be propped up, she wanted her very own chef engineer. I don't know what a chef engineer. Oh, it's chief.
Chief engineer.
Chef. I read that really quickly and thought it's a chef. I'm never getting over that one. All right, Tim, you can make sure to bump that one up so everybody hears what I just did. All right, chief engineer. Holy chef engineer. What did that have to do with the bed? Was that about the oysters again? Anyway, to come in and do it for her. But the crazy doesn't stop there. According to This Is London, Barbara Streisand also demands rose petals in the toilet, peach-covered tissues, and 120 bath towels in peach. Because why not, I guess? And the all security hotel staff, whatever, people working at the front desk, wear dark sweaters. I don't know why. Maybe to identify them really well. I don't know. But anyway, she's also rumored to have given instructions to staff at MGM Grand to enter and leave the rooms from the back side so they do not directly look at her. And they have to walk out backwards. Let me restate that. They have to enter the room from the back. I don't know how you enter a room from the back. I guess you have to go all the way around, enter from the back, and when you leave, you have to back out. I don't even know how that would work. That's just what they're saying. I can't picture it myself either. But in some way, it's so that people don't look at her. But if you're backing out, wouldn't you be looking at her as you're backing out? I feel like you would want to turn the other way. It doesn't matter. Barbara Streisand and her chef engineer and her oysters don't make any sense. I'm never going to live that down. That's going to be up there with Stevie Nicks and meat raffles. I was like, a chef engineer? What the heck? Tim's like, do you mean chief? Okay. All right. Anyway. All right. Moving along. We're gonna back off from that one. The next one is a very famous diva and probably the one that Tim has been expecting to be on the list because he says this person ranks up there as the divified divas in his book. I don't know if divified is a word, but we're going with it. Mm-hmm. It's Diana Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think Diana Ross is a vocal diva, a performance diva. I don't know much about her off stage, but I would imagine that she's probably not up in your Mariah Carey, Barbara Streisand type thing.
Okay, so this is probably true, and that's what I think of too, because there's like they were saying with the definition, there's 2 types of divas. I feel like diva has become, like they're saying, it used to be very flamboyant, over the top, demanding opera singers, but now in pop culture, it's more to reference if you have a diva office to see who's got the best vocals, the greatest vocals. So yeah, I agree with you on that. But the song I chose was Chain Reaction, and the reason I chose it is because I know the Bee Gees, aka our favorite Gibbs brothers, wrote it, and they do the backing vocals.
That's correct, and that was seen in the 80s as a comeback of sorts. Chain Reaction.
Mm-hmm. It's a great song.
Yeah, it's a really good song. And I remember when that was in the charts, and in the video, she's wearing this big, red dress and with, fireworks around it and all this kind of stuff.
Very diva.
Yeah, and I think she'd been laying low for a number of years, but as I said, it was seen as a huge comeback number for her.
Well, and as much as me and Tim think the Gibbs brothers sometimes sound like paint drying when they're speaking, or like a really bad golf match because they seem incredibly dry and boring. They write great music. Like their writing skills are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, they are musical geniuses. Their vocal harmonies are amazing. The production that they've done on various songs is undescribable. But they're a bad interview, and they're grumpy, and they're not terribly pleasant in real life. Is what I understand.
I mean, yeah, you win some, you lose some, Tim. We can't all be great at everything.
Well, that's true.
All right. So basically, they said Diana Ross showed her diva colors at a Beverly Hills restaurant. According to the New York Post, she showed up to lunch. The restaurant refused to seat her because, like many restaurants, their policies, they won't seat you till your whole party is there, which I've never really had that, but apparently that is a policy in some places. Maybe I'm just not going to fancy enough restaurants in Beverly Hills. I don't know. Okay. McAdoo's will sit me down, Tim. So anyway, but apparently that was their policy, and she was still waiting for her daughter to arrive. Basically, she stormed out from where the little area was they were telling us and sent herself and leading management to come over and reiterate the policy. She was then told that if she insisted on staying in the booth, she would not be served, which she refused to move. The rest of her party finally showed up. The mother-daughter duo made a big scene and ended up leaving in a huff. And a bunch of people recorded it on their cell phones of her screaming at the restaurant staff. To add further salt to the wound, the restaurant owner said this about Diana Ross. I'm sorry that Miss Ross had a problem with this, and she feels she is above the rules. We treat everyone the same, whether you're famous or not. We would love to have her back as a customer, and we'd be happy to see her again.
There we are. Well, I mean, if they're very clear with the rules, I mean, if she didn't like that rule, she could have gone to another restaurant.
Well, all they were saying is she needed to wait up front till her daughter showed up. And from what I gathered when I was reading it, it didn't take very long for her daughter to show up. My guess is, and this is just purely speculation, as a celebrity, maybe you don't want to be just standing out kind of waiting, because then people come up to you, they want autographs. They're like, oh my God, look, it's Diana Ross. You know what I mean? Maybe she wanted to be hidden a little bit. But I'm sure if she had asked them if there was a place she could stand away, they would have let her.
Sure. I would have thought in Beverly Hills, they're probably tooled up for that.
I would think so. I mean, that's just a theory. Like I said, Tim, at the McAdoo's, they set me down. I'm not eating in Beverly Hills right now. So
no, exactly. You go to Zeppeli's in Blacksburg when we're meeting someone who's trying to sell us something, and then someone hasn't got there yet. They don't care. They just let you in. They're like, yeah, blah, blah, I'll be coming later. Oh, that's fine. We'll put a menu out for him. It's okay.
Do you know what they want to drink? And you always just order them water if you don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird policy, but if it's a policy, I understand the manager's point. Like, we're not going to, just because you're Diana Ross. The other thing is, like, call ahead and talk to the people or something. You know what I mean, Tim? If you really think it's going to be that big of a problem.
Sure.
Storming out in a huff. But to be fair, that was the only story I could find on Diana Ross that painted her in that light. Couldn't find anything about, like, a big writer requesting flowers and no oysters and chief engineers. So, in all the stories, I guess that's not the worst. And anyway, all right. So the next one is one that Tim will once again not be surprised is on this list, and her tweets are amazing. It is Cher.
Cher on Twitter. Now, assuming Twitter survives, which it probably won't because, it's going right down the pan. Assuming it survives, you have to follow Cher. Cher is a grumpy old lady on Twitter who believes in all the things that are cool, hates all the things that are not, expresses it in all caps.
Yes. And when I was doing this, that was one of the things that people were talking about was her tweets and how she is so bold in the way she will call out anyone. She does not have any filter whatsoever. And if you say something, and she's very big on her politics and her beliefs and what she feels very strongly. I remember when I went to the Women's March, I was talking to my friend because, there were so many famous people in D.C. who went to the Women's March. We're not going to get into the politics of it, but there was. And I remember Madonna was there, Cher was there. And I said, I actually don't know what I would do if I turned around and they were just standing beside me. I want to say I'd play it cool, but I feel like I wouldn't, Tim. And I probably would have just and then ran away. I don't know what I would have done. Anyway. So the song I chose was a song that I just really like. It's the Shoop Shoop song. It's in his Kiss. And basically it's not her song though. She's not the original who sang it, but I prefer her version.
Yeah, her version is from that film Mermaids, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And so it was originally a single in 1963 by Mary Clayton, but it didn't chart. The song was made a hit later on by Beverly Everett when it hit number 1 in 1964. And then later on, we had the version she did for the movie Mermaid.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good Cher songs, apart from that ABBA cover album, which we have covered before.
I do like her version of Fernando, but the rest is kind of meh.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Shoop Shoop song is a classic. And she was the one who called it the Shoop Shoop song because it's in his Kiss is the actual title of that song.
Yep. And that kind of like differentiates hers, I think, because when I seen it written, most of the time it's like shoop, shoop, shoop song. Literally, it's just the word song. And then it'll be parenthesis, it's in his Kiss on parenthesis. So yeah. I will say, though, if I pick my all-time favorite Cher song through and through is Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. I think that is an amazing song.
Yeah, that is a very good song.
All right, so back to the diva-S that is Cher. So apparently she's very big on her costumes, which if you've ever seen Cher, that doesn't surprise anyone. But her biggest thing is her wigs. Apparently during her 2000 tour, they had to request a completely separate, I think it was like they gave some weird square footage that I can't remember that was huge for her to store all of her wigs for the show.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, that's part of your stage costume. That's part of your equipment. I mean, if you're a rock band, you would have an area for guitars or keyboards or pianos or whatever. So that's an important part of the show. So it's important that she has her wigs set out in a certain way. I can see that.
So yes, I mean, and you see her hair is kind of like, I don't know. Cher is her hair kind of. She's always got big, glorious, beautiful hair. So I get it. Makes sense. But this one I picked this one specifically for Tim. So I couldn't find anything about like a real big rider, like nothing crazy like oysters or roses. There are no carnations. But she went on Letterman. Have you ever seen when she went on Letterman, Tim?
Yeah, many times. As we've spoken before, I was a huge
Yes.
Letterman fan.
So apparently when she comes in, she was on a show in 1986. Basically, Letterman says out loud when she sits down, "Why have you never been here before?" And she says, "I don't know. I thought I would never want to do this show with you." And then later she called him a word I can't use on here because it is a PG podcast, but it starts with an A. Mm-hmm. So what was the how did the interview go? I haven't watched it, Tim, since you've obviously watched it. Is it super awkward or is it?
Well, I think at the beginning, that would have been on Late Night with David Letterman on NBC. I was a fan from when he was on CBS and it was The Late Show.
Yeah.
I think by the time he got onto doing The Late Show, him and Cher must have reconciled because she was on there a number of times. And in fact, she reunited with Sonny and did I've Got You, Babe on the Letterman show. And that was like the first time she'd seen Sonny for 20 years or something.
So that's interesting. So Tim hasn't seen this. Apparently, I feel like maybe she was saying it kind of slapsticky because if you ever see her live, she's really funny. Like there's this one bit I've seen with her when she's with Ellen DeGeneres and she's like deadpan and she calls her a word I can't say on our podcast because she goes, "You blank," and like it's hilarious and she's deadpan when she says it. It almost seems like it's like a comedy bit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how serious she is in it or if that's just who she is. I mean, I love that. My favorite quote from her is the one about marrying a rich man. And she says, "Mom, I am a rich man." Mm-hmm. I love that. She's fantastic. I love everything Cher does. But apparently I just picked that because of it was in 1986. So it's pretty while ago. So they had plenty of time to make up. But I just thought it was funny that like he's like, "Why weren't you on my show?" And she's like, "I don't know. I just never thought I would." At least she's honest. All right. So the next one is we can't have, and this will be my final one, and then I have a few little bits, but this is my final diva, Tim. We can't have a diva show without Miss Whitney Houston.
Yay!
Which she is the best of both worlds. I don't know why I keep making that noise tonight. That's like the third time I've made that. It's in my brain. So we're going to have to like record it, Tim, and just start pushing it like my little sound. But Whitney is kind of the best of both divas. She does have a notorious writer and things of that nature and like requests she makes for hotels, but she's also probably the greatest singer of all time.
Certainly in her genre, absolutely.
Yeah, vocal wise, I'm just saying, like she's got one of the greatest voices. So I chose the song "Saving All My Love for You," which I'm assuming you're familiar with. And that was actually, I thought it was interesting because she's not the original to do this song, and I didn't know that. It's actually written and produced by somebody else that didn't really go anywhere. But basically, this artist, it was written by Michael Masser and Jeffrey Geoff, not familiar with him, during the 1970s, and originally recorded it with Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. on their LP Marilyn and Billy. Years later, Masser saw Whitney for the first time when he went to a New York City Sweetwater Club, an invitation made by the record's producer, and she was singing one of his songs, which is The Greatest Love of All. After her performance, Masser was like, hey, I've got this other great song, and that's how she ended up singing Saving All My Love for You.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was a cute little story of how she got that song. He said he has a very special affinity to the song. She heard it and absolutely loved it, and that's the rest is history. I love the sound of her voice in that song, and the intro is really pretty, so that's why I picked it. All right. So during her 2004 tour of Southeast Asia, Whitney Houston required that she be driven around in an armored Mercedes or BMW that was neat, clean, had tinted windows, and was specifically in excellent working condition. I don't know why she thought they were going to give her an unworking vehicle.
Well, I would imagine you travel to some parts of the world, which, have big international cities, that kind of stuff, but you don't have to go far off the beaten track, and it gets a little rough and ready and underdeveloped, certainly by contemporary Western standards. So I could see that the finest that they could offer you may not be what you're used to.
That is true. It's just a very specific statement. But then here's where it's funny. I can't bring up Whitney without bringing up Bobby. Bobby Brown requests the exact opposite vehicle when he is with her. And it is a chauffeured, state-owned, I don't know why it's got to be state-owned, Ford Crown Victoria with a cherry top.
Okay.
They need, she needs a Mercedes and a BMW. That's working. And he needs a state-owned Ford Crown Victoria.
And for those people who don't know, a Ford Crown Vic is the same kind of car that U.S. cops used to have.
Yeah, it's very famously, if you've ever watched the Blues Brothers, that's the car that he's like, it's got the cop motor, the cop wheels, you know what I'm talking about? And that's the car they're in, that they like fly off of like bridges and stuff, and it keeps moving, supposedly.
Exactly. And they stopped making the Crown Vic in 2011, so the cops don't really have them anymore. But that is your classic US police car.
Well, and one thing that's funny is a lot of those vehicles went up for auction. So in America, like if they repo a vehicle or if the old cars go out of season, they just want a new one, whatever it is, they auction them off for cheap. And you can get these through like state auctions and different things like that. So you'll see a lot of people who have the old Crown Vics and are still driving them, and they look like the old police cars that and I don't want to say love, but and saw. And so people will be driving them, and you'll know it's the ones they got off of auction, because it'll have like the extra mirror and just be very specific.
Yeah, one of them passed me once on 460 just down here, and I looked in the mirror, and I thought it was a cop car. And as it overtook me, it said on the back window, "Not a cop car."
No, I've seen that guy in Christiansburg. Because me and Charlie laugh about it every time we see it, because there's a running joke that like if you get one of those vehicles, because in the back of our mind we know that that's the old police vehicle, there's still a few of them out there that the sheriffs use, but it's very few. People will slow down instinctively or be very careful what they're driving because they think it's a cop. And so if you're in that vehicle, you're constantly having to go around people. Yeah, that's hilarious. I've seen that one. All right. And then for Whitney, this is not really a huge deal, but I just wanted to mention it. The couples, and it's about the couples diet too. Whitney's big into peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and that was her big request. She's also basically into frequent layovers when she's when she's in areas and she gets frequent layovers, she requests that they serve her specific things. There's a restaurant, it's called Spartan Grub, and she'll request that they find it when she's laid over, and it could be 7 cities over, and bring it to her.
Okay.
And so she does, and that's a big thing. But what the funny part is, here's where it comes into the couple thing. Apparently, so she likes her peanut butter and jellies in her hotel rooms and stuff. And then if they're on layover, she's requesting this Spartan Club or something like that. Bobby Brown, though, has his own restaurant that he likes, and he requests they go get them for him, too, separate of the restaurant she's requesting food from.
Yeah, it just sounds like a big nightmare if you're on their staff.
And that is how I quit my job as Whitney Houston's assistant today. Because I don't even know what Spartan Grub Club is. Never heard of it. But anyway. So apparently it's popular with cops, and according to what is this thing, but it doesn't matter. I thought this was funny, Tim, and it is not a diva. I just wanted to throw this out there. These are just 2 little fun things that I saw when I was looking at all these writers. Mm-hmm. It's Iggy Pop, which you might find him a diva. I don't know. He's very flamboyant. I did pick the song "Fun Time" because I like that it's by David Bowie as well. Mm-hmm. But he has a 28-page writer. It became public news in 2012 with hilarious requests. 2 of his terms were strange enough that I just have to say them. So basically, he asked that he have a Bob Hope impersonator and the seven dwarves impersonator at all times backstage. You heard that right. A Bob Hope impersonator and a 7 dwarves impersonator at all times backstage. Sadly, they were having a struggle finding 7 men short enough to be the 7 dwarves. And so he complained that they were too tall.
Well, that's it, because in England you have pantomimes, and they do Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs regularly. And the thing is, there are only so many little people in the world. And I think, not all little people want to work in the field of acting. So you hear that where there will be Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, and there's not enough little people actors to fill the roles.
And he did say it's okay if you want to get tall men, but he still complained, apparently. He also said, he highlighted that each of them must be wearing a pointy hat.
This sounds like a chemically assisted tour rider.
I mean, Iggy Pop, everybody, I don't know what to tell you. Another thing, though, was he also said that if they couldn't find the Bob Hope impersonator, he would be okay with the alternative of a belly dancer.
That may be easier to find. I don't know.
But I mean, Bob Hope and a belly dancer are 2 very different things. And then last but not least, this is what I'm going to leave the people with. I just thought this was funny. Not really a diva, but I found out the Beach Boys banned the word oldies from all of their promotion materials. And it's specifically in all the riders they put out everywhere as they perform. You cannot use the word oldies when promoting their shows.
Well, there we go. I will. If I ever promote the Beach Boys, I will be ready and know that.
All right, Tim, what do you have for the people?
I still love Spotify, and be extra, extra kind.
And if you can't find a Bob Hope impersonator, get a belly dancer. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you later. Bye-bye.